the winner of Super Bowl 55, who will hoist the Lombardi Trophy. And it will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will take the Los Angeles Rams to hoist the Lombardi Trophy for the Kansas City Chiefs, who will win this game and win the Super Bowl 31-27. All that said, give me the Kansas City Chiefs in my, let's put that up one more time, in my upset of the week, and simultaneously, if I were a bet man, give me the Chiefs plus 1.5. Patrick Mahomes leads the Kansas City Chiefs on a game-winning drive, a game-winning touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins to win Super Bowl 59. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs by a final score of 31-27. The Seahawks, if I were a bet man, are going to win Super Bowl 60.
And here we go.
Folks, when you're hot, you're hot. It just is what it is. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, Twitch, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver. Could not be more excited to be with you on a Super Bowl reaction Monday night show. First and foremost, let's get business out of the way. I know there were some audio issues with Friday's show that I sincerely apologize for. Those should be corrected by now. So as long as you guys hear me good come out of this mic, that should be fine. That's number one. Number two, before we get to any of the topics on the show, part of the reason we play that intro is because in my personal life, before I started this podcast, I had become, in my own, personal circles, quite notorious for some pretty atrocious Super Bowl picks. As a matter of fact, tail of the tape, I've been picking Super Bowls since the 2012 season, and not great until Carving It Up went to YouTube. Since then, how about 5-1? So I don't know what it is. Is it you guys, the audience? If I want to give y'all credit, absolutely, I will absolutely do that. I don't know if it's the YouTube magic touch, social media, whatever it is. When you're hot, ladies and gentlemen, you're hot. The Chiefs have been good to me. Seahawks were good to me yesterday. The Rams, the Bucks. Oh, my goodness, I could be more fired up to be on the show today. Got some comments here by some good friends of mine. Patrick Brown, he says, what's everyone? Let's run up the comments and likes, even the hype points as well. I appreciate you, Patrick. Go check out his articles on The Grid's website. Also, my buddy Tyler Reddick, who's on a new basketball podcast on The Grid. Glasses are on. That means business. You better freaking believe it, Tyler. And listen, a lot to get into on the show today. Of course, I'm going to discuss Sam Darnold right off the bat in the show. He was absolutely, I won't say sensational. He was very, very productive throughout the course of his playoffs. Didn't make mistakes. Get to that. Why he deserves an immense amount of credit, for the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. Also get into why Seattle isn't going anywhere anytime soon, although there is one aspect that I'm a little bit concerned about. As for the Patriots, I'm going to show you guys some shocking Drake May graphics that are going to absolutely blow your mind about how bad he was throughout the course of this postseason, why the Patriots may not be AFC threats in 2026. Bad Bunny's halftime show, I thought he was absolutely sensational in every way, shape, and form. Get to that, and which of these two teams are most likely to get to Super Bowl 61. I'm so used to saying 50 in front of the names of the Super Bowl, but let's get started. Shades are off. That was just for my picks earlier. Let's get started talking about Super Bowl 60. But first, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, your Super Bowl 60 champions. And there's a lot of credit to go around. You could talk about John Schneider. I gave him a lot of love on the show last night on my post-game reaction show. The fact that he built the Legion of Boom team and, in addition, the offense with Russell Wilson, Beast Mode, and company. Took that team apart. That team got old, got injured, got tired of each other. Fired Pete Carroll, traded Russell Wilson, Beast Mode retired, Legion of Boom aged out, and then he built this team. So John Schneider deserves credit. The Allen family deserves credit. Mike McDonald, we're going to show you Mike McDonald graphic later in the show that is going to be, really, really impressive. He was excellent throughout the course of the season, one of the great young coaches in the NFL. JSN, Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP. Dang sure that Seattle Seahawks defensive line, who we'll touch on throughout today's show. But one must start with Sam Darnold. And I know what you're saying, Bryson. Yesterday, 50% completion, 1 touchdown, passer rating in like the mid-70s, QBR 0 to 100 of like 53, He was fine. He wasn't bad. Didn't screw up. Looked a little off early in the game, but he wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. Here's what I'll say. Sam Darnold and his growth and his maturity since coming into the league in 2018 when the Jets nearly ruined the kid is remarkable to watch. Kyle Shanahan made a point on the NBC pregame show. He was on the NBC pregame show yesterday. He made a point that I thought was really, really smart. He said, when it comes to Sam Darnold turning it loose, and that was the term they kept using, turning it loose, he kept saying, you know what? When Sam Darnold used to do this more frequently in his Jets days, Carolina, he would keep both teams in the game. In other words, yeah, he'd make a few plays, to whoever's receivers were for the Jets and Carolina and company, and he'd probably throw a pick six or he'd fumble or he'd try and do too much. This year in the postseason, he was able to rein in. Do we have Sam Darnold's postseason numbers 2025? You can say game manager numbers. I can't even refute that, to be honest with you, but he didn't make mistakes. 5 touchdowns, no picks, 61% completion, 224 passing yards, a 102 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 69. Of course, the most important of all, he's a Super Bowl champion today and for all time. And when you think about Sam Darnold, let's be honest, going back to the start of last season, a guy who was an MVP finalist, or not, maybe not a finalist, I don't remember, but certainly MVP candidate, threw over 30 touchdown passes, led the Vikings to 14 wins. If you go to last season and this season, he's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. We'll do a top 10 list on Wednesday's show, but here you go. Okay, so he's tied for 4th in touchdowns, 14th in completion, 7th in pass yards per game, 8th in rating, and 1st in record. I've mentioned the stat. We weren't able to get a graphic in time, but I mentioned the stat about how, Tom Brady's the only other quarterback to win 14 or more games back-to-back years. Like we talked about that when Sam, and the Seahawks won their 14th game against San Francisco. But maybe a more mind-boggling stat. I saw this earlier today. I wish we could have made it in a graphic. We'll probably make it for the YouTube video. Quarterbacks who have more than 30 wins. Okay, so quarterbacks who won more than 30 games in a span of 2 seasons. Here are the quarterbacks: Terry Bradshaw, Brett Favre, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Sam Darnold. Now, do I think Sam's on the level of those guys? I do not. I think that the first 4 guys I mentioned are 4 of the 10, 11 greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't think Sam's going to get there, although, hey, why doubt him at this point, right? But the fact of the matter is he did his job. And people saying, he wasn't special in this game. Listen, he looked rattled. I mean, he did. And I predicted coming into this game, I thought both quarterbacks would struggle a little bit out the gates, if nothing else, for just straight jitters. Drake Maye, year 2. Sam Darnold, year 2 as a starting level quarterback in this league. Going from bombing with the Jets. He's a backup at one point. Not only was he with Carolina, he was a backup briefly during the 2022 season with the Carolina Panthers before he took over and went 4-2 down the stretch. He backed up Brock Purdy in 2023. So yeah, there's going to be jitters. He missed Jackson Smith-Njigba twice. He missed Rashid Shaheed twice, including one deep ball at the end of the game that could have been the dagger before Seattle's defense put the dagger into the hearts of the Patriots. Yeah, jitters were going to be a part of the equation, but guess what, folks? They don't get here if he's not special against the Rams. They don't get here, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. I did not, because I picked the Rams to win the NFC Championship game, but you guys knew how well I viewed Seattle. I had them at number 1 on Bryce's best 10, basically from mid-November on, late November on, is that with Sam Darnold, I did not think it was possible for him to outplay Stafford without Stafford having a clunker in that game 2 weeks ago. Stafford was awesome. Stafford absolutely torched the Seattle's defense, and Darnold outplayed him. Darnold made all the big throws with his, all the big plays with his arm, with his legs. He got them here. As great as the Seahawks defense was, the biggest reason that folks are kind of coming out today saying, yeah, they're great. This dark side defense is great. They were amazing last night. Not quite the Legion of Boom. Legion of Boom never gave up, 27, to an MVP candidate in Stafford. They actually shut down Peyton Manning, the MVP, back in 2013. Sam Darnold came to the rescue last week. In this case, the defense kind of bailed Sam out in the first half when he was missing some layups. He missed Jackson Smith-Njigba when he was rolling out. Didn't quite get his feet set, but JSN would have absolutely just waltzed into the end zone for a touchdown. Like, all of those things, I think, are related to jitters. But we talk about a Sam Darnold, who, to me, is going to go down in history, whatever happens the rest of his career. We'll talk about whether Seattle, can go back-to-back. That's always the question about any champion in any sport, that for a team that doesn't blow it up. We know Seattle isn't going to do that. Sam Darnold is going to be the face of really of 2 things. One is a saying I've had on the show for a few weeks now, and I may make merchandise because I think it should catch on. If someone bombs, we need to shorten this a little bit, but if someone bombs, a talented person bombs with the Jets or with the Browns, blame the Jets or the Browns. I'm sorry, blame them. That's why I'm excited to see what Robert Saleh does with the Tennessee Titans. If Robert Saleh is great with Tennessee, it was probably the Jets' fault he didn't do very well. Aaron Rodgers was more efficient in Pittsburgh than he was with the Jets. Everybody's better post-Jets. But more than that, Sam Darnold is going to be the poster child, so to speak, of the do not give up story in sports. Like the greatest underdog story in Super Bowl history is probably Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner, come on. Man was bagging groceries. Sam Darnold wasn't on that. Darnold was the third overall pick in 2018, but it's almost like a different type of comeback to where you are the third pick in 2018. You do come from a prestigious quarterback U school in USC. Think about all the great quarterbacks they've had over the years. Ironically, Darnold, the first to start a Super Bowl. You bomb with the Jets. You end up leading them to a season in which they end up having the second overall pick, and they replace you with Zach Wilson. They say, we'll ship you to Carolina. You don't do very well with the Panthers either. Now you're backing up Brock Purdy in San Francisco. There was a debate going into that training camp, if you remember, if he'd be the third string behind Purdy and Trey Lance. He ends up beating out Trey Lance, and we all know what happened with that. Never lost confidence, never lost faith, never lost belief. What Sam Darnold did is what all successful people do when they fall down in their butt. He did not change the goal. He changed the approach. He played clean football. If you told me that Sam Darnold coming into this postseason, no interceptions, I'd say Seattle's winning the Super Bowl. They're winning. We know what the defense is. The weapons are great. They were already excellent. Then they added Rashid Shaheed, who was kind of quiet yesterday. But Kenneth Walker run the football, good O-line, good coaching staff, Clint Kubiak. If Darnold plays clean football, they're not losing. They're just not. And I think when there's it's amazing how much someone's worst moment of their career, of their life, how long of a trail that can have. Fair or unfair, that's how it is. Sam Darnold caught on a hot mic, 2019, Monday Night Football against the Patriots. Folks, that actually, ironically, that game happened the day that Carving It Up started back in 2019, October 21st. Darnold's caught on a hot mic. Man, I'm seeing ghosts out here. That has followed him ever since. What are you going to say now? Was he special in the Super Bowl? No, but they don't get here if he's not special against the Rams. You think they get here with Geno Smith? A lot of folks are saying, well, a lot of quarterbacks could have. Listen, again, I'll make my list on Wednesday's show. Spoiler alert, there are quarterbacks that have not won a Super Bowl that I think are better than Darnold. I just do, and I'll lay that out in a couple of days. But are we sure all of those quarterbacks? Are we sure Josh Allen is great in an NFC Championship game against the Rams the way Darnold was? Are we sure Lamar Jackson is? Some of these guys, Justin Herbert, some of the proclaimed elite quarterback. Are we sure? Because I'm not. I've seen them in similar moments, and they've kind of melted. Darnold did last year, learn from those mistakes, lessen his turnover probability in postseason because he actually led the NFL in picks during the regular season, did what was asked, and he's now a Super Bowl champion. Sam Darnold with, by the way, a great post-game quote afterwards with the guys at ESPN. Sam Darnold after the game.
I'm not usually a crier or an emotional person.
Go for it.
No, I'm not going to cry right now, Boom. But man, just to be able to share a moment just now, 5 minutes ago with my parents and Katie, my fiance, my parents, they believed in me. They believed in me from when I was a child playing this game. I would make mistakes. I would make mistakes off the field too. They know it. And they would teach me lessons and all these things throughout life, and they just believed in me, throughout my entire career. And I credit them to why I'm still here, why I'm still chasing this dream, because they always believed in me, and it allowed me to believe in myself.
And that's something that you hear a lot of people say about Sam Darnold that is always, even I remember distinctly his days when he was with the Jets and he wasn't playing very well and he was erratic, he was turning the ball over. I remember distinctly Jets beat reporters, Jets teammates, guys, would talk about, man, we love this guy. He's a great teammate. He's a great leader. We are pulling for this dude to be successful. That says a lot when you are not productive, not getting the job done, not, playing at the best of your ability, and people are still defending you like that. Says they like you as a guy. And folks, that in any industry, that'll keep you around for a long time. Think about a guy that people think's the greatest coach ever, Bill Belichick. Part of the reason it didn't get him first ballot, whether it's fair or unfair, he kind of treat people like dirt over the years. Treat players like dirt, treat the greatest quarterback ever, kicked him out the back door. a lot about life, a lot of the rewards of life. How do you treat people? People will never, we hear the saying all the time, people will never forget how you made them feel. Sam, I mean, do you remember that game last year when the Vikings beat the Packers? I think it was actually Darnold's last win as a Viking. I think it was week 17. They'd gotten their 14th win, and Darnold is like being carried off the field or carried in the locker room like he's Vince Lombardi in 67. You're getting water dumped on him. Like, he's one of the most beloved guys in the NFL. That's why you're seeing former quarterbacks, current quarterbacks just come out and say, man, good for Sam. Good for him. Persevered, didn't give up, and he's a great lesson to all of us. He really, really is. Got some comments here from Patrick. He says, very happy for Sam Darnold. Young man went from seeing ghost to Super Bowl champion. As I've said numerous times, QB rehab school is a real thing. It is with the Vikings, Niners, Rams, like these young offensive coaches. They can really rehabilitate some of these young quarterbacks. Patrick, sitting down to develop and learn how to understand and play quarterback from Shanahan, McVay, and O'Connell. Clint Kubiak let Sam play to his strengths, and it paid off. And we've seen this a lot, as Patrick says. To think, 2018 QB class of Mayfield, Darnold, Rosen, Allen, and Lamar, and Darnold wins a Super Bowl. Darnold wins a Super Bowl before his counterparts. Minnesota should have kept him. You don't say. But they sold too early in favor of J.J. McCarthy. I'm sure Vikings fans were punching the air watching Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl title. You know, it's moves like that cost GMs their jobs, as we saw Minnesota moved on from theirs, a couple of weeks ago. But again, good for him. Happy for him. And as for Seattle, we'll shift to New England about 5 to 10 minutes. For Seattle as a whole, listen, the question is going to be, can they go back-to-back? Well, when you're Super Bowl champion, when you're champion in any sport for any team, automatically you got a target on your back going into the following season. Automatically there's okay, can you replicate success? The only thing that's harder than success is sustained success. And listen, there's a reason that in the 21st century, 2 teams have gone back-to-back. And they were quarterbacked by, in my view, the 2 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Tom Brady with the Patriots, 03-04. Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs, 22-23. We've had teams go to 2, even 3 in a row. The Patriots went to 3 in a row from 16 to 18. Lost that one in the middle, thanks to Belichick. The Kansas City Chiefs went to 3 in a row, lost that last one in dominant fashion last year to Philly. Seattle went to back-to-back, famously 1 yard short of winning that Super Bowl. It's hard to close the deal. Super Bowls are hard to win. I know that's not exactly breaking news, but we know that to be the case. Here's what I'll say about Seattle. The only thing that I really have concern about with them moving forward, Clint Kubiak's gone. Clint Kubiak's going to go coach Fernando Mendoza with the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, I think it's a really, really smart hire. I think he'll develop Fernando quite well. Reportedly, Mike Macdonald is already looking in-house, which can be a little risky. We've seen how that's hurt Philly. That's hurt Detroit. Like, I know we're very, very late in the hiring process. Obviously, given that, you're hosting that, this kind of the downside. If you make a Super Bowl, one of your coordinators gets poached, you're kind of behind the 8 ball going into next season. At the same time, there is an element of when you hire in-house, you're just getting a lesser version of the guy you already had. In most cases, we've seen Philly do it twice. We saw the Lions do it last year after they lost Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell to call plays at the end. That concerns me a little bit for Seattle. Look at Tampa Bay having to replace coordinators. Liam Cohen, Baker didn't look the same. That concerns me a little bit. Aside from that, most of the best players in their team are young. Jackson Smith-Njigba's still in his rookie contract. He's in year 3. Now, Cooper Kupp's a vet. Rashid Shaheed's a free agent. I imagine Seattle would go out of their way to try and keep him. But Nicky Manwari, who's playing this game with a bad ankle, thought he played well. I loved it. Y'all know how highly I spoke of Nicky Manwari all season long, and going back to last year's draft, I thought he was utterly sensational at South Carolina. You think about guys like Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon is one of the top corners in the National Football League, top 3, top 4. Now, some of your vet pass rushers and interior defensive linemen like D-Law, congrats to him on getting a ring, by the way. Leonard Williams, you're always going to bring in some vets. Cooper Kupp, same thing. You're going to bring in some vets, but O-line's young, receiving core's young, tight end, Barner, good player. He's young coach. I mean, Mike Macdonald's 38 freaking years old. By the way, how about Mike Macdonald? Show up that graphic, and this will kind of play into what we're saying about Drake Maye later, but Mike Macdonald, show those numbers. QB's under 25 against Mike Macdonald's Seahawks. Like, you turn into a backup against this guy when he's, calling defensive plays. 9 touchdowns, 14 picks, 62% completion, 182 yards a game, 69 passer rating, 15 team points per game, and again, a record of 1-10. So if you're a young quarterback going against Mike Macdonald's Seahawks, you're in a shape. You're not doing so well. We saw that with Drake Maye last night. So the coach is there. The organizational infrastructure, again, I mentioned John Schneider at the top of the show. I mentioned him a lot last night. Like, when you consider, folks, what he was able to do as it relates to what he got out of the Russell Wilson trade. Again, we'll pull that up because trading Russell Wilson at the time, it was kind of controversial. People didn't know if it was the right move. Russell was still a 100 passer rating type of guy. And he said, you know what? I don't think that this level of, or this type of player, shorter, receding athletically, is somebody we can trust to be able to get us to the next level moving forward. And so when you look at that, and you look at what the Seahawks got out of the Russell Wilson trade, Charles Cross, who's their left tackle, pretty good pick. Boye Mafe, linebacker, good pick. Devin Witherspoon, awesome pick, defensive back. And Derek Hall, who I thought had a legitimate case to be Super Bowl MVP last night, to be honest with you. A couple of sacks, a forced fumble. I thought Derek Hall was sensational in this game. So John Schneider, he's not going anywhere. The only concern was Clint Kubiak. The only other thing I would also say is, okay, what does the Darnold contract situation, where does that stand? He's on a 3-year deal. He's making about $33 million a year. At that price, man, Seattle's in good shape moving forward. They can be able to spend money to get Cooper Kupp, to get D-Law, to bring in guys like Rashid Shaheed at the trade deadline. I know he's on a rookie deal, but you've got that extra cap space to be able to make that happen. He'll ask for a raise. He should get a raise. The question is are those discussions going to look like, okay, will you go and I don't fault Darnold either way, but will you go the Tom Brady route, or at least what the Patriots tried to sell Tom Brady on what it was? Take less money, we put better players around you. Mahomes has kind of done this a little bit in Kansas City. Or is it going to be, I've got my ring, I'd also like the bag, which I wouldn't fault him for either. This man probably thought his career was over a few years ago. I wouldn't fault him either way, but one decision would make John Schneider's job significantly easier than the other. Of course, it's a hard cap league. But with this organizational infrastructure, great ownership. Now, I do know they're going to sell the team, so we'll see who they bring in to replace the Allen family. But John Schneider, he ain't going anywhere. Mike McDonald, he's the next great young defensive coach moving forward. They have to replace the OC. That's the only downside. Even as if you have a great defensive coach, if you're able to replace that OC moving forward, Seattle's not going anywhere. That's the moral of the story. They're going to be here for some time. Got a comment from Patrick. Winning a Super Bowl is difficult. Repeating comes with high expectations. It can become a mental challenge in achieving this feat. Three-peats are different animals to tame. No question about that. We are going to take a 1-minute break. What a show we've got planned for you guys tonight. When we come back, I got to tell you, folks, some damning New England Patriots stats. That in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on this Super Bowl reaction Monday show. Before we get to next order of business, I did want to say, as I always do, be sure to check out our Carving It Up merch, ladies and gentlemen. Scan that QR code on the top left of your screen. It'll take you to the website where you can check out all of our Carving Up merch. Last night, I wore a Carving It Up hoodie, but we got hats, we got t-shirts, we got coffee mugs, we've got any and everything, bags, sweatpants, jogging shorts, the whole bit. We've got stuffed animals. We've got beach towels, for crying out loud. Any Carving Up merch you want to check out, scan that QR code on the left side of your screen. It'll take you there. We'd really appreciate if you rep the brand. You can also check out our amazing content creators of the Grid, All Even Podcasts. You've got Saturday Morning Tailgate. You've got Mike and Josh. Got some great content creators. Cowboys Cam Fan, among others, on the Grid Network. Mike and Josh as well. Check out their merch. And if you just want Grid Network merch that just says GRYD, the Grid Network, you can have that too. hats, t-shirts. I've got a Grid Network hat, so be sure to check that stuff out as well. Scan the QR code above to check it out. All right, so now to the losing side. Now the New England Patriots. So if we start with Sam Darnold on one side, we got to start with Drake Maye on the other. So let's start with this. It's year 2. It's year one for him starting the entire season. He is going to get better. I don't see in the next few years he just falls off a cliff. Maybe he turns into the next version of CJ Stroud. Like I don't see that coming. And this is going to sound like hyperbole until I prove what I'm saying. In the Super Bowl era, Drake Maye just had the worst run of any quarterback in NFL history to a Super Bowl we've ever seen. And we can show you the numbers. When you talk about guys, let's show Drake Maye straight up numbers right off the bat. So these are his numbers for the playoffs. Like he wasn't good. 7 touchdowns, 8 turnovers. That's not going to work. 58% completion, 207 pass yards a game. Keep in mind, 200 of his passing yards came in the fourth quarter when the game was by and large decided. 82 passer rating and a QBR from 0 to 100 of 40. One of the cases that many made, and I stand by what I said throughout the last month when the MVP race or discussion was at its peak. I would have no problem. It's a regular season award. Have no problem if either win the award. Matt Stafford, Drake Maye. I'd go with Stafford. But those who made the case for Drake Maye, what was one of the main components of that? EPA, which is one of those big time analytics stats, expected points. I think expected points allowed or something like that. I forget it. It's an analytics stat is the moral of the story. EPA. Do we have that graphic? I believe we do. Okay, here you go. Worst EPA in Super Bowl history or in playoff history if you make at least 3 starts. There you go. That's the company he's in since 2000. Drake Maye, Peyton Manning in 2015. This was 9 touchdowns, 17 picks, Peyton Manning. This isn't prime Peyton Manning. Rex Grossman, rookie Joe Flacco, or I think that was maybe second year Joe Flacco, Jared Goff, and finally Kerry Collins. The worst playoff QB EPA since 2000 with at least 3 starts. Drake Maye has by far the worst. If we want to talk about, you're like, I don't really connect with EPA. Okay, we know what passer rating is. We know how passer rating works. It's more of like an efficient quarterback stat. Drake Maye had the worst passer rating, the worst fall off from the regular season in the last 30 years. He's in the company with Peyton Manning in 06, who ironically won the Super Bowl that year, but we know Peyton Manning was never a great postseason player. Flacco in 08, Drew Bledsoe in 96, Jared Goff in 2018. Drake Maye, biggest playoff passer rating drop in the last 30 years. That's bad. So for him moving forward, the thing that was, I think, a little alarming, or maybe a lot alarming if you're a Patriots fan, like I tweeted first drive, like, holy crap, they're getting like immediate pressure on him just rushing forward. That's a problem. It reminded you of Kansas City last year against Philadelphia, Kansas City against Tampa a few years back, New England against the Giants back in 07 with that Strahan, Justin Tuck, and OC defense. Where it's, what's going to happen when they start bringing blitzes? I mean, Devin Witherspoon came on blitzes 21 times this entire season. In this game alone, he went 6 times. We got a big portion, 2/7 of his pressures or of his blitzes in one game, in this game. What was concerning, and I said this last night in the show, even the greatest ever, Tom Brady, what did he struggle with the most? Not pressure per se, pressure up the middle. Pressure up the middle. Now, Tom was more of a stationary player. Drake Maye, that's not the case. But you have to do a lot of heavy lifting to just make something out of that play, just to throw the football out of bounds and live to see another play. You got a guy coming right up the middle, like you're in bad shape. I'm not getting on Drake Maye for that. It was when it felt like he knew, or at least you could maybe tell on television from the sky angle, that the blitz was coming, and he didn't see it. That was concerning when Eamon Worry would come, when Devin Witherspoon would come on a blitz. It's like, is he not reading the field right? And I think there were moments in this game. We talked about Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. I know some Patriots fans are going to make the excuse about Drake Maye's shoulder, and he said he'd gotten it shot up before the game. We knew he had the shoulder concern had been a thing going into the Super Bowl throughout the playoffs. We get that. I watched that game last night. That didn't appear to be a guy. I don't want to say he wasn't hurt. That's not fair. Drake Maye was playing hurt. The throws he was missing, the plays he wasn't making, didn't seem to be a matter of, oh, he just can't get enough arm strength into that. Missing receivers wide open. I mean, the last interception he threw he threw what should have been a pick into like triple coverage. Kobe Bryant wasn't able to come down with it. He throws his second pick deep down the field. This is when it's 19-7. Patriots maybe have a prayer's chance, or 7-8 minutes to go. They have a chance to win this game, and throws a pick, and that's pretty much good night, Irene, from there. When you have Chris Collinsworth, who knows about as much football as anybody on planet Earth, when you've got Chris Collinsworth on the broadcast saying to Tirico, I got nothing. I don't know what he saw there. That's a year 2 quarterback. And by the way, even some of the best, Patrick Mahomes said, I remember a few years ago, he's like, yeah, I didn't really know how to read defense until like year 3, year 4. It's like, holy crap, what were you doing before that? Brett Favre, now Favre wasn't exactly the most cerebral quarterback ever, but he said for the first, decade of his career, he didn't know what a nickel defense was. Like, there are guys who can get by in sheer talent. And Drake Maye, one thing that I've said about him all season long, like there are throws he makes that are really hard that he makes look pretty easy. Good arm strength. We know he can move. He made actually some nice plays with his legs in the second half. I think Josh McDaniels could use a little bit more of Drake Maye using his legs just to settle him in, to get some momentum for the offense, because they could not run the football at all with Ramondre Stevenson up the middle, in particular, because of how great those Seattle interior defensive linemen are. Listen, Will Campbell gave up 14 pressure in this game. That's not the most for the playoffs. That's the most all season long. My guess is they probably move him to guard. New England, maybe they trade up. This is a great tackle draft. Maybe they trade up and get a tackle to protect Drake Maye. They've still got some rebuilding to do on that offensive line. We knew that going into the Super Bowl. It's one of the reasons I had Seattle winning this game, is I thought they just had a physical advantage up front, their defensive line against New England's front. But there were times where Drake Maye did have time to throw, and he just missed guys wide open. He just did. He made bad decisions with the football. Both quarterbacks looked a little shaky in the first half. Darnold never screwed up. Darnold could have thrown a pick on the first play of the game. After that, he played it pretty safe. Missed some throws, but didn't put the ball in harm's way, per se. Drake Maye did, multiple times. I mean, he could have thrown 4 picks in that game yesterday. And so that's concerning. And let's be honest, he was an MVP finalist. I get it. He was literally a vote away from winning the award. But we have to be fair about this. And again, I've mentioned with Darnold earlier, I'm going to have my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL list coming out on Wednesday's show. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. He'll be on it. Had he won that game, it's like, you can make a case he's top 3. MVP finalists, along with Vrabel and McDaniels and the guys New England brought in. Diggs, able to get the team from 4 wins to 14 wins and a Super Bowl championship, to now it's, you just had one of the worst postseasons of any quarterback in NFL history. Your regular season matters enough for me to put you in the top 10. You are not in the top 5. You are not better than any of the big 4 quarterbacks. We know they are Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, and Joe Burrow. And you are dang sure not better than Stafford. Can we show Stafford's numbers against the Seattle defense? The 2 games at Seattle, by the way, in a road game, 6 touchdowns, no picks. He averaged 400 pass yards, 415 yards a game, 60% completion, a 117 rating, and 84 QBR. And the Rams averaged 32 points per. Now, they lost both games because they couldn't stop a nosebleed, but Stafford was awesome in those games. Stafford was really the only quarterback who looked awesome against the Seattle defense. So some of that's not a Drake Maye problem so much as it's a Stafford is amazing problem. But you cannot make a case today he's in the top 5. This postseason hurt him. The games have to matter. And in many ways, New England got here in spite of him. I'll be honest, I didn't do it on the show, but I'd heard comparisons like, oh, he's like this generation's, he's doing in 2025 what Trent Dilfer did in 2000 with, in my opinion, the greatest defense of all time, the 2000 Ravens, where it's like, you're not asking him to do anything, just don't screw the game up. And I'm like, that's a little harsh compared to Trent Dilfer. I think the Patriots would have rather him played like Trent Dilfer. If he had, maybe they win that game yesterday. Or at least they're closer in that game than they were. Drake Maye talked to the media after the loss.
Definitely hurts. It's been a long ride. They played better than us tonight. They deserve to win that game. And, speaking, for the whole team and, myself, just, what a journey it's been for us. I love this team, love those guys in that locker room. And, I'm gonna leave it all on the field, and I know a lot of guys do that tonight, and just came up short, didn't play our best, and that's what happens.
And I think too, like the part that, because we always hear, oh, this guy will be back, this guy will be back. Listen, never forget, Dan Marino made the Super Bowl second year in the league. Dan Marino is one of the, in my opinion, I think he's the 6th greatest quarterback ever. Dan Marino never went back. Dan Marino, when he retired, he held all the records. Favre broke some of them, Peyton, Breeze, then Brady. He was the guy. He was the most gifted passer of his era. Never got back. We've seen a lot of guys, year 2, not make it back to the Super Bowl after a loss. Not saying Drake May won't be that. What I am saying, though, is this. I do not expect the New England Patriots to be a contender in the AFC next year. I don't. And I say that because of this. They were a win. Let me back up. They were a competitive showing away. The Patriots were yesterday. If they lose on a walk-off field goal by Jason Myers, who, by the way, was sensational last night, he drew some MVP consideration, then no one cares that much about the schedule thing. If those that were curious about the schedule, we've shown this graphic a number of occasions. It's literally the 8th easiest schedule in NFL history since the merger. 75 Vikings, 70 Dolphins, 99 Rams, who won the Super Bowl, 1970 Colts, 72 Dolphins, obviously undefeated, 79 Bucks, and that was when the Bucks were just the dumpster fire of the league, 79 Rams, and the 25 Patriots. And what you see with all 8 of those teams is they were all good. Why? Because they had one of the easiest schedules literally in NFL history. It was up to New England to be able to show, hey, there's not an asterisk, and I don't believe in asterisks in sports, but there's not a yeah, but with them. What were they going to do when they stepped up in weight class? There's a few graphics to show. This one is bad. When you look, do we have that one? Game by game for the New England Patriots in 2025. Here it is. Here's New England's schedule and what ended up happening with all of the teams that they played. Put that up on the screen. That's remarkable. The Raiders fired their coach. The Dolphins fired their coach. My Steelers, Tomlin resigned. Panthers made the playoffs, but had a losing record. Bills fired their coach. Saints, losing record. Titans fired their coach. Browns fired their coach. Falcons fired their coach. Bucks, coaches in the hot seat. Jets, coaches in the hot seat. Bengals, coaches in the hot seat. Giants fired their coach. Then the bye. Bills fired their coach. Ravens fired their coach. Jets, hot seat coach. Dolphins fired their head coach. They beat up on the worst of the worst in the NFL. Or good teams that, like Buffalo or Baltimore, that were kind of going through some turmoil, some dysfunction. And it's reflected, by the way, it's reflecting the numbers. If you look at New England against teams under 500, boy, they beat up on those teams. I mean, they had 30 points a game. They didn't turn the ball over. Drake averaged a 117 rating, and they were 13-1, baby. They were flying. But it gets teams in their weight class, pretty big fall off. It goes from 30 points a game to 19. They had, 60 fewer yards per game. A whole yard fewer yards per play. 2.1 turnovers per game. Drake's pass rating plummeted 30 points. And they went from 13-1 to 4-3. They had an opportunity last night to vanquish, even with a close loss. You could say, well, they played 4 of the top 5 defenses in the league and they came that close to winning a title. That's still pretty impressive. You can't say, oh, that's the schedule. And you say, well, those defenses they played. Chargers top 5, Texans top 5, Broncos top 5. Yeah, except none of those offenses could counter New England's offense. You have playoff Justin Herbert, who hasn't scored in 29 of his last 30 playoff drives. You have C.J. Stroud, who I think forgot how to play quarterback, over the last year and a half. And then Jarrett Stidham, God bless him, but there's a reason that was his first start in 2 years. Like, he was kind of thrown to the fire after the Bo Nix injury. But when you have experienced Sam Darnold, Clint Kubiak, a team that can punch back, you kind of wilted a little bit. And one of the people, and I was shocked by this, one of the people who wilted in that spot was Mike Vrabel. And I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in football. But there were a few moments in this game when New England's down 9-0. They have a 4th and 3 at midfield. You punted? I get you trust their defense. They've been playing well. Man, we need something. We need to play a trick play, something to get this offense going. He punts. And most shocking of all, I think most of America probably didn't care about this, maybe didn't pay attention to it. I called it and I tweeted it on the spot. When you're down 19-0, Drake Maye really his only good throw of the night. Downfield throw, left sideline, hits Mac Hollins, touchdown. There's 13 minutes left in the game. It's not over yet. They still have a shot to win. Why in God's name are you not going for 2? What? Why? Folks, if you get the 2-point conversion, that's now 19-8. It's an 11-point deficit. What does that mean? If you get a field goal, that 11-point deficit turns to 8, one-score game. The difference in kicking the extra point or not getting the 2 is a 12 or 13-point deficit. Doesn't matter. Still a 2-score game, and a field goal does you no good. If you get the 2, a field goal does do you good. And Vrabel, and part of the reason I love Vrabel so much is because he's kind of been one of the cutting-edge coaches on situational football. You guys know I care a lot about situational football. Vrabel's one of the best at it. I thought the way he handled the clock in that game was at week 9, week 10 against Tampa was masterful. Intentionally falling down at the one with Tampa but not having any timeouts, running the clock down to nothing. They ended up scoring at the end of the half. Brilliant. Remember that game when he was in Tennessee, that playoff game against the Patriots? When he kept committing penalties and the clock kept running, before they punted the ball, to where the NFL literally had to change the rule because Vrabel found the loophole? That's what the great cutting-edge coaches do. So for him to not have the presence of mind, 19-6, a 2-point conversion makes it 19-8. A field goal cuts it to a 1-score game. For him not to know that going in was genuinely shocking. I'll be honest. If that was Mike Tomlin, Belichick, I hate to say this, but McCarthy, not really shocked by that. It's like, that's kind of not their forte. That is Vrabel's forte. That is what he's great at. And so that was shocking to see yesterday. And again, I talk about how easy the schedule was. Again, literally the 8th easiest schedule in NFL history. Have you seen New England's schedule next year or their opponents next year? Because it is, it's not exactly their schedule in 2025. Patriots, 2026 opponents. So at home, it's not brutal. It's not murderer's row exactly. Of course, we all know Jets, Dolphins, and the Buffalo Bills. And then you've got Denver, Vikings, Packers, Raiders, and Steelers. Tough teams, pretty good team, not murderer's row. Their road schedule is hell. So Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Chargers, Bears, Chiefs, Lions, Jags, Seahawks. And by the way, next year, more road games than home games. That doesn't bode well for New England. And when you just, again, we'll show the graphic again, and it blows my mind. I'm sure the way it blows yours. When this is what you're going against this year, when your opponents in this order fire their coach, coach resign, losing record, fire their coach, losing record, fire their coach, fire their coach, fire their coach, hot seat, hot seat, hot seat, fire their coach, fire their coach, fire their coach, hot seat, fired their coach. When the first team you play that can punch back in the playoffs does so, and Darnold wasn't even amazing. If Darnold hits on some of those throws, this thing is it 43-8, just like that 2013 game against the Broncos? Maybe. So that, if you're a Bills fan, and it's been a tumultuous offseason already in Buffalo, got to feel pretty good about that. If you're a Dolphins fan, Jeff Hafley's coming. If you're a Jets fan, I'm sorry, you probably have no hope. Better luck next year. But if you're a Bills fan, okay, New England's probably going to come back down to earth a little bit. Now teams are gunning for New England next year. Now they're facing the best in both conferences. Now they're facing the big dogs. And the downside is they're already in a division with Buffalo because we all know Buffalo, Kansas City, those have kind of been the two teams we expect to see in the AFC title game every year. Well, they're automatically in a division with Buffalo. They play them twice. The Chiefs were bad this year. Mahomes got hurt. Well, because that's the division they play, AFC West, they got to play the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Chargers. And Vegas with Fernando Mendoza, I don't know, Vegas with Geno Smith beat them for what it's worth. Beat up on the little kids. Once you play the big dogs, won the same story. Won the same team whatsoever. Got some comments, it would appear. Got a bunch of comments. Here we go. Patrick. Drake maybe, that's nice. Drake maybe couldn't call the Ghostbusters to save him. Josh McDaniels' play calling was atrocious. It was oddly conservative. Yeah, McDaniels absolutely deserves some heat as well. Defense did their job. Offense was stagnant. Any smart play caller would have gotten Stephon Diggs involved early. Plus, the offensive line was getting bullied. No kidding. In every level. What do we got? He says, I heard an interesting comment. New England going up against Seattle's defense was similar to playing in a snowstorm 2 weeks ago. That's one of the things that I really got tired of when folks were saying, well, Drake didn't play that well 2 weeks ago against the Broncos because it was a snowstorm. The Patriots didn't have, I don't think they had a first down until Jarrett Stidham had the bonehead fumble at the end of the half. There was no blizzard in the first half in Denver. Patrick, if New England had won, Christian Gonzalez would have been Super Bowl MVP. Defense kept them in the game. Offense couldn't find any ground to cover. He also says, New England had the easier path and schedule. Seattle in the tougher division, by the way, which sent 3 teams to the playoffs. 1 in 3 games separated them from first place. How good is the NFC West? No kidding. Here's Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast. Soft-ass schedule. They got railroaded. Finally saw a real team. People were ready to crown Maye. Not so fast. Well, in the words of the great Lee Corso.
Not so fast, my friends.
Let's slow down just a little bit on that. I got some more comments. Ashley Howarth 5623. Bad Bunny didn't nail anything. He tanked massively, deleting his social media account. Oh, okay. Good for you. Patrick. Dan, that's interesting. Dan Gamble. Patrick's good with the nicknames, man. I'll tell you. Dan, I wish I'd come up with that. Dan Gamble Campbell. Say that 3 times fast. Would have gone for 2. Not even just because he is the most aggressive coach in the league, folks. Again, some of this is what drives me crazy about coaches sometimes. And I'll be honest, I expect the younger coaches like a Vrabel to kind of have a good feel of this. Some of this is just a simple math equation. I'm not asking you to know geometry. Listen, you're not exactly looking at a math whiz right here. I can assure you of that. He's not very good in prop and stats. Let me tell you that right now. But basic addition and subtraction, 19-0. If you score a touchdown, that's 6. If you get the 2, that's, that makes it an 11-point game. If you kick a field goal your next drive, it's 19-11. Guess what? That's a 1-score game. This is not hard. I'm sure, and again, Vrabel's the last guy I thought would have made that mistake, and he did. Patrick. Marshawn Lynch trolling New England in a Nike commercial as soon as the game ended was icing on the cake. And it was beautiful, too, and we've got the graphic ready to go. It was beautiful, too, to see that a Seahawks running back, 11 years after, we all know what happened, throwing the ball at the 1 to Ricardo Lockett and 7 and giving it to beast mode at the 1 with 1 timeout and 2nd and goal. How beautiful is it? How vindicating is it if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan that the MVP of this game was none other than your starting running back, Kenneth Walker? Go and put up Kenneth Walker's numbers in this game. He had 29 touches, 161 total yards. He had 5 yards a carry. And he's the 3rd player in Super Bowl history with 2 25 or more yard runs. He would have had 3 25 or more yard runs and a touchdown if they hadn't called holding, which, to be fair, it was holding. That's one thing I'll say, too. I don't know if I remember. I don't think I brought this up on the show last night, and I want to today. Everyone is very quick to blame refs and say, refs are why we lost, refs rigged the game, refs, start the dog, ref. I thought the refs called a fantastic game last night in the sense that they kind of let them play. We did not have a penalty until late first half. Now, some of that is these are 2 well-coached teams, 2 disciplined teams, 2 teams that I think by and large weren't heavily penalized in the regular season, and they played discipline, but also there were some plays like, I could have called holding, maybe could have called rough in the passer here, that let them play. That's officials in playoff games, but especially the Super Bowl. They do not want to be the story the next day. They do not want, remember that Seahawks and Steelers game in 2006, 05-06 season at Super Bowl 40, 20 years ago? Man, that was a story. Some bad calls that went against Seattle. Officials don't want to be the story the next day after a Super Bowl. And so, the Zebras last night were like, hey, we're letting them play. It's the Super Bowl, biggest game in American team sports. Let them play, which I think was good on their part. It was really dope. And Patrick is apt on this. Walker was the first running back to win Super Bowl MVP since Terrell Davis in 1998. One of the more gutty performances. I wasn't around to see it, but you go back and watch Terrell Davis against that Packers team. I don't have his exact numbers, but Terrell Davis did all that with a migraine. which is I've had a few migraines in my life. I had one last November. You can barely freaking walk. How you can, as a running back, go head to head against guys like Scottie Pippen couldn't play a game 7 back then because of the migraine. It's debilitating. Can't see sometimes. And for him to do what he did. But I screenshotted this. So running backs, to Patrick's point, running backs win Super Bowl MVP. Pretty good list of guys. Larry Zonka, Super Bowl 8 with the Miami Dolphins. The late, great Franco Harris, God rest his soul, Steelers legend in Super Bowl 9. John Riggins for Washington in Super Bowl 17. Marcus Allen, the great Marcus Allen, Super Bowl 18 for the Los Angeles Raiders. Otis Anderson for the New York Giants, Super Bowl 25. Emmitt Smith, all-time leading rusher in Super Bowl 28 with the Dallas Cowboys. Terrell Davis, as Patrick mentioned, Super Bowl 32 for the Denver Broncos. And Kenneth Walker last night in Super Bowl 60. Good point here by Patrick. Patriots fans leaving the Super Bowl when the game was 19-0 to avoid further embarrassment and humiliation. Sore losers. Sore losers aren't loyal. Also, by the way, do want to give credit to Mike Vrabel for this one aspect, and this is what you're supposed to do as a coach. But Vrabel was asked after the game about Drake Maye's performance, and here's what he said.
What did you see from Drake tonight? You mentioned the turnovers.
Yeah, this is, we can sit here and try to put it on one guy. You'll be disappointed because that'll never happen. It starts with us as coaching staff and making sure that, that we're doing our part. And then obviously we have to be able to execute. We got to be able to protect. When we do protect, we have to be able to progress through and throw the ball to the guy that's open and, and help the quarterback. And then he's got to be better. Like, that's just how it goes. So, that's never going to change.
Football's the ultimate team game, and that's what Vrabel's talking about. And he's right. I mean, obviously he's not going to go to the media and diss his quarterback. But, yeah, and you saw it with Darnold, and you've seen it with Darnold in his career and a lot of quarterbacks. This is why I've defended Dak Prescott like crazy over the years. It's like, guys, look what Dak's doing with what he's doing it with. Look at the organizational infrastructure around Dak. He's got nothing. It's like CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens when he cares about playing football, and that's it. Garbage defense, garbage owner, coach that we don't really know if he's good or not. We'll see. And Dak's gotten to see in the playoffs, 5 times? 5? Give Sam Darnold the opportunity to succeed, and he's done it. So to Vrabel points, the ultimate team game, but still early on, I'll be honest, and then we'll take a break. Early on, it was, I don't know how Drake Maye is not going to be able to have any success whatsoever. Like, it was starting to remind me a little bit of Brady in 07 against the Giants, Mahomes in 2020 against the Bucs, where it's the second you take the snap, they're rushing 4, and they're right in the backfield immediately. It's hard to be successful with that. At the same time, once we got into the second half, they gave him protection from time to time. When they were able to pick up a simple 4-man rush, guys were open for New England. Diggs, Mac Hollins, popped up. Like, these guys separated. Booty, they separated, and Drake just missed them. There was one play, I think it was to Austin Hooper. I think it was when it was 19 to, I almost said 19-8. It should have been 19-8. 19-7. Drake's got Austin Hooper open for a 30, 35-yard gain, and he just throws it, 5 feet over his head. Like, what did you see there? Like I said, it takes a lot for Collinsworth to be kind of shaking or scratching his head on a broadcast, and Drake may have those moments, which is never a good sign. Going to take a 1-minute break. When we come back, how about Bad Bunnies? Super Bowl halftime show. I did want to discuss that in just 1 minute here on Carving Up Live. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Super Bowl reaction Monday show. And, there was a lot that happened in the game last night. lot that happened on the field, commercials. I got to admit, I've been a little critical of the commercials the last few years. I thought they were actually half decent this year. I know a lot of folks were saying it was basically gambling, it was crypto, it was AI, and it was, I forgot what the last one was, but the one commercial, I think Bruce Arians was in it. Shout out to Bruce Arians, great coach, great dude. Where they were talking about prostate cancer when they said, I wrote it down. What was it? Let down your tight end or something. Relax your tight end. Yeah, and the commercial had tight ends. It had Cody Parkinson. It had Gronk was in the commercial. That was George Kittle was in the commercial. It was kind of funny. You had I thought the karaoke spoof of the Backstreet Boys song for the crypto commercial was odd. I didn't really get it, to be honest with you. It didn't, maybe because I'm not a crypto bro. I don't know what it is, but it just didn't appeal to me that much, but hey, to each their own. As a Star Wars fan, I got to admit, thought we'd see a little bit more of the Mandalorian and Grogu ad. I really did. I was kind of hoping for, because I'm hyped as hell to see it in May. I really wish we could have gotten a little bit more than we got, but regardless, can't wait to go see the movie in May. And there is an element of you don't want them to spoil the trailer in the entire movie. So like I get all of that. There was also I thought the Budweiser commercial with the Eagle was kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be honest, it was kind of cool. With Freebird by Leonard Skinner, it was great. There was the Lace commercial with the dad who gives the farm to his daughter at the end. Like there was, Super Bowl always gives you some touching commercials, some humorous ones. The Dunkin' Donuts where they de-aged Jerry Seinfeld, some of the cast from Friends, Tom Brady, Ben Affleck. Like I thought that was fun. So by and large, I'll be honest, I was actually, I dug the Super Bowl commercials this year. And also the fact that Haley Steinfeld made a Super Bowl before Josh Allen did. Wish none but the best for that family. I know they've got a baby on the way, but that's something that people will hang over Josh's head until he wins. And fair and unfair, that's how it works. But of course, the main story not involved with the game itself was the halftime show, which once it got announced in, I think it was October, if I'm not mistaken. The Bad Bunny, by the way, the most streamed artist on Spotify, so he's somewhat successful, was going to be headlining it. And there was so much pushback from the disingenuous bad actors on the right that they said, you know what? We are going to create our own halftime show through Turning Point USA. It was announced on X that the Turning Point account would not be able to stream the halftime show, which featured superstars like Lee Brice, Gabby Barrett, headlined by Kid Rock. And by the way, the halftime show, and I called this with my family on the dot. I said, you watch, this halftime show is going to bleed into the second half of the game. You mark my words, it's going to happen. And it did. But I think what was amazing about all of it, we really haven't had a Super Bowl halftime show. Maybe I'm missing somebody. I know, obviously, Janet Jackson obviously took a ton of you-know-what from people after the Nipplegate, her and Justin Timberlake. That was after the fact. It was unfair, number one, but that was also after the fact, after the performance. We've never had a performer take as much crap going into a Super Bowl performance as Bad Bunny did. He had every opportunity, every chance, maybe you even could say right, to go scorched earth, to say, you know what? Screw the people who don't like me. F every single one of y'all. This is going to be a call out to everybody, each and every one of y'all, in as forceful ways I can be. Could you have necessarily blamed him if he did? Instead, he chose unity. He obviously, in his own way, did a great job of celebrating Latino culture, which was fantastic to see. Even got some celebrities involved. You had Pedro Pascal up there. You had Cardi B. Are Cardi B and Stefan still together? That's an interesting subplot in all this. Karol G. You had Jessica Alba, who's still averaging 25, 7, and 7. My goodness. You had a lot of people involved. Lady Gaga was a part of the halftime show, which I didn't see coming. Chris Martin. You had some A-listers out there. But for those that were complaining about, I couldn't understand the language. Listen, I don't understand Spanish either. I took Spanish a little bit in high school. I, by and large, don't understand the language that well. But read the messaging behind it. You see the happiness, the dancing, the celebrating. There are older people involved. There are little kids involved. There are, there are celebrities. There are average, everyday people. Like, everybody was involved in this. You even had something that I thought the family values people would love. You had not just a wedding, a heterosexual wedding live during the show, which I thought was dope. Oh, that was great. I honestly watched the show. I'm like, that can't be part of the act. Like, just having a wedding during the show is a little random. Like, no, it was real. Apparently the couple invited Bad Bunny to their wedding. He's like, I'm doing this show in front of hundreds of millions of people. Would you like to get married then? They're like, heck yeah. Which, by the way, speaking of hundreds of millions of people, for those that said, man, I am not watching the Bad Bunny show, ratings done bear it out. Here you go. Most watched Super Bowl halftime show of all time. Katy Perry is in 5th, 118 million. Rihanna is in 4th, 121 million. Michael Jackson, who some people think is the best halftime show ever, 133 million. Kendrick Lamar, who crushed it last year, just edged out MJ at 133.5 million. Bad Bunny beat out Kendrick Lamar by almost 2 million people. 135.4 million people watched Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show. That is a record, despite the alternative halftime show being on. You know why that's the case? You know why the President of the United States was complaining about the halftime show? You know why your MAGA uncle was texting you afterwards, railing about it, even though he has an alternative show to watch that caters to his beliefs? Because part of that movement is anger, is vitriol, is somebody to yell at. That's why they like Trump. That's why they connect with him. That's why he has the base that he has. Anger, rage, vitriol, revenge. What did you get mad at the show last night? Oh, he spoke Spanish. Ooh, scary. We have tens of millions of people in this country that speak Spanish as their primary language. It was happy, joyful, dancing. Matter of fact, there were even messages. Bad Bunny at one point in the show said, "God bless America." Well, I mean, you would think the right would love nothing more than that. By the way, hey, I agree. God bless America. Totally agree with that, by the way. Of course. May he always bless us. And he mentions all of the, all not just America, obviously, but all of South America and, all of the United States territories. Obviously, we know Bad Bunny's from Puerto Rico. He celebrated his home in a major way in that show. And of course, the message of a Jumbotron, which I'm sure is circulated all over social media, the only thing stronger than hate is love. Is that with everything going on right now, with all of the ICE raids, illegal American citizens being taken away from their families, American citizens being gunned down dead in the streets, our form of protest is going to be one of joy and one of unity. We're all in this together. We're not going anywhere. And it's not surprising. I'll be honest, I was debating whether or not to play this soundbite, but I was like, what the heck? Might as well. Might as well. When you have those on the right, again, who have a compulsion to always being angry, such as Megyn Kelly, who said this.
I'm sorry, Piers, but to get up there and perform the whole show in Spanish is a middle finger to the rest of America. Who gives a damn that we have 40 million Spanish speakers in the United States? We have 310 million who don't speak a lick of Spanish. This is supposed to be a unifying event for the country, not for the Latinos, not for one small group, but for the country. We don't need a Black national anthem. We don't need a Spanish-speaking, non-English performer, and we don't need an ICE or America hater featured as our primetime entertainment.
Some people can't hide who they really are. And I even saw a guy who I've called out on numerous occasions, Clay Travis, who tweeted the following, and I quote, this is a real tweet. He said, an ice raid during the Super Bowl halftime performance would be incredible television. This was never about too many people come into the United States illegally. It was never about that. They know. Megyn Kelly knows. Clay Travis knows. Everybody knows Bad Bunny is an American citizen. Everybody knows. There's a reason we call it Latin America. They're Americans. I mean, what are we talking about? Had every opportunity to make it vengeful, vitriolic. I mean, no halftime performers ever had to deal with another halftime show starting to counteract his hate for America, which please show me the quote where he hates America. I have yet to see it. So salute to Bad Bunny. That was it. Kendrick Lamar's was really impactful a year ago for different reasons, pointing out the misfortunes is one way to put it. The obstacles that Black America has had to face for a long time. This one has felt quite timely since those who have brown skin have been under attack since the start of this administration. I mean, really, really under attack since the start of this administration by just blatantly racist policies and pundits and presidents. Bad Bunny had every opportunity to make it vitriolic, vengeful, and said he made it joyful, unifying, inspiring. There were moments he would say in Spanish, I'm here because I believe in myself and you should believe in yourself too. It was along the lines of you're worth more than what you think. Like, that's awesome. Wasn't that kind of, I thought, the theme of the Super Bowl in general? Sam Darnold, some of the Seahawks players, Kenneth Walker. We're going to play a Kenneth Walker soundbite in a few minutes. Like, wasn't that kind of the theme of the game to begin with? Bad Bunny played right into it. And I think his final message is one we should continue to keep with us moving forward. In all of our interactions and experiences in everyday life, the only thing stronger than hate is love. We're all in this together. We're all fighting. If you are against the tyranny that's going on in our country right now, we're all on the same team. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, gay, straight, trans, whatever your socioeconomic status is, we're all on the same team on this. And ultimately, I've said it before, and there's going to be some hard days moving forward. That goes without saying. There's already been a lot of hard days. In the end, because of the will and because of the inner strength that the American people have showed throughout our history. How did America start? How did this democratic experience start? Protesting the government for unjust policies. That's how we got here. That spirit's not gone anywhere. And I think Bad Bunny represented that last night. So, salute, my man. Got some comments here. Patrick. Bad Bunny went from bagging groceries to winning Album of the Year and performing at the biggest sporting event in America. Loved the cultural and unified message. The same party who hate cultures are the same ones who celebrate Cinco de Mayo. The hypocrisy. Yeah, it was funny. I was actually talking to somebody. It's a great point, Patrick. I was actually talking to someone about that today. They love to get their, to go to Mexican restaurants or just get their margaritas on Cinco de Mayo. They love it. They love the food. They love the culture as long as it suits them. Interesting. Patrick, and he's right on this one. Coco Jones paid tribute to Whitney Houston during Lift Every Voice and Sing by wearing a replica outfit Whitney wore during the national anthem. Listen, I mean, don't get my mom started on this one. She will fight you to the death on this. Whitney Houston is unparalleled in the history of national anthems now and forever. And listen, I agree. The only one that came close to me was Stapleton a few years ago. I thought Stapleton's was outstanding. No one's touching Whitney's. And frankly, I think Whitney in general is the greatest voice. They literally called her the voice. That'd be like if LeBron or Jordan's nickname was the basketball player. Like, that's what they call Whitney. So that was dumb. Coco was great. Brandy Carlisle was great. Charlie Puth was great. The camera person for NBC, give that man or woman an Emmy. At the end of Charlie Puth's National Anthem, they pan from him, like, they're like beneath them, and they pan to the flyover. Like, that was NBC. Kudos to NBC for the job they did, and then going straight into the Olympic coverage right after. Tarico, by the way, has been one of the best in the world at that. And actually, I literally just got two texts from my mom. She says, nope, talking about Whitney Houston. Nope, not close. Stapleton, good, not close. I can't say I necessarily disagree. NBC is from Patrick. NBC did censor Green Day during the playing of American Idiot. Wonder why. The emotional moment was Bad Bunny giving his Grammy to a young child. It was very heartwarming to all Latin youth who could accomplish any dream they want to pursue. It was awesome. The whole thing from start to finish, it was, again, you did not have to understand a single word he was saying. And I'll be frank, I really didn't. I certainly don't speak Spanish. I understand bits and pieces of it, but by and large, I've got a ways to go in that category. I need to get started in Duolingo if I want to get anything close to that. With that being said, you don't necessarily have to understand language to understand tone. And from the jump, positive, happy, joyful, celebrating culture. There were people Bad Bunny's age. There were people, that were kids. There were older individuals in the performance. That was awesome. That was patriotic too, which I thought was what the people who allegedly hate Bad Bunny, I thought that was what they were wanting to see. I don't know. I guess they prefer the guy who has the hit song Balls in Your Mouth. No, I don't know. Take a quick break. When we come back, can Seattle go back-to-back? In just a minute on Carving It Up Live. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. I appreciate everybody for stopping by on a jam-packed Super Bowl reaction Monday show. Real quick, a tail of the tape for how I did on predictions during this football season. We can go and show you mixed bag. Could have done better, could have done worse. Overall record, this includes playoffs, of course. Got about 61% of my predictions correct. Round up, it's 61.9. We can say 62, right? Against the spread, few games under 500, 489. Listen, I've always said, like, for the Bet Man segment, if I were a Bet Man, which, by the way, 29-34, got my last Bet Man segment right. So, one more time for good measure.
We're a Bet Man.
I was able to get that last one right. So thank you, Seattle Seahawks, for winning and covering the 4.5 pretty comfortably. Upset of the week. Honestly, I can live with 8-11. I really can. I can live with 8-11. It's the most difficult segment to pick. There was a streak early in the season when I got, I think, like 4 in a row correct, and then I went a streak where I got like 6 in a row wrong. So, hey, sometimes you're hot and sometimes you're cold. So, on Super Bowl picks, I'm red hot. Upset of the week depends on the week. Bleak bet 7-11. That's about what it should be. I always say it's the game each and every week that I have absolutely zero confidence in predicting. But hey, you got to predict them all. And if I were a bet man, again, would have liked for it to have been better. But you know what? That means there's room for improvement. That means we can get better in 2026. And again, this was I think it goes without saying, a very strange football season for a number of reasons. I don't think if you ask Seahawks fans, objective Seahawks fans, I'm sure they thought their team was going to be good, and they had every right to. No one thought this would be the case. I'm not saying they're just the out-of-nowhere team per se. They did win 10 games a year ago, so it's not like they were a bunch of nobodies. But not a lot of people thought Sam Darnold would hold the trophy at the end of the season, and it just goes to show you got to play the games. This isn't Madden. This isn't, you don't just go by the rosters. The Baltimore Ravens according to a lot of experts, had the best roster in football coming into the season. 8-9. So you got to play the games. But it was a strange year. It's going to be interesting to see if next season is kind of like back to a regression to the mean, so to speak. Like, okay, we kind of go back to where it is, where all the great quarterbacks are in, where that wasn't necessarily the case this year. There were a lot of great quarterbacks who didn't make it. You know, Patrick, Lamar, Dak, Joe Burrow. Like a lot of the best ones did not get in. Josh Allen was the 6th seed. So I think the biggest lesson from this season, roster construction matters, man. It does. You're never going to have a perfect roster. I mean, Seattle's got a lot of free agents. Reek Wallen's a free agent. Rashid Shaheed's a free agent. I think, who else? I think they've got like a couple linebackers. They've got some really important players in their teams that are going to be out there on the open market for anybody to be able to snag once the legal tampering period opens, I think a month from today. But the biggest message to me from this season is roster construction really matters, and the Seahawks showed you that. And even New England would agree. I wouldn't say necessarily a Super Bowl roster. Here's what I know. I've been hard in New England today. Here's what I'll say, and then I'll move to Seattle, and then we'll get out of here. I'll defend New England in this respect. I'm not sure who out of the AFC was beating Seattle. Now, the Rams, I feel a little bit differently because the Rams defense wasn't very good at the second half of the year, and we touched on that all season long. Seattle was the most complete team in the NFL from start to finish. I mean, was Denver going to do it? I mean, even with a healthy Bo Nix, we can debate whether they would have beaten New England with a healthy Bo Nix. Who knows? Bo Nix against that pass rush, I don't know. Now, he's got a better O-line than Drake had, so he would have been more comfortable. Who knows? Buffalo, I love Josh. I don't trust him in the biggest moments. You go down the list. Houston's offense was we already saw them against Seattle this year. They did nothing. Chargers, well, Herbert would have had to win a playoff game, and that hasn't happened yet. So, by and large, it is completely fair to say New England was the best team. They won the AFC. That they were the best team in the AFC all season long. I'm not so sure who in that conference would have beaten Seattle. I really do not. But as for Seattle moving next year, what the question is, can they go back-to-back? Can they repeat? Again, as I said at the top of the show and on last week's reaction, 21st century, two teams gone back-to-back. They were quarterbacked by, in my view, two greatest quarterbacks ever. Tom Brady, 03-04 Patriots, Patrick Mahomes, 22-23 Chiefs. We've had teams come close. Seattle themselves came literally a yard away from doing it. Sorry to remind you, Seahawks fans, on this very joyous day. But I think what you have to feel good about moving forward if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan is this. When you have great organizational infrastructure, you're always going to be in the fight. The Rams are always going to be in the fight. The Niners are always going to be in the fight. That's just in their division. Philadelphia, even with their kind of chaos dysfunction, they're always going to be a player in the NFC. You respect them, going into a postseason. They have been to two of the last, doing quick math here, 9 Super Bowls. Whereas franchises that aren't as well run, but hey, they have great quarterbacks. Dallas, Cincinnati, Baltimore is well run, but they've had a little bit of chaos. A lot of it's going to depend on roster construction. Seattle's got maybe the best roster constructor in John Schneider, one of the best drafters in the NFL. And most of these guys are coming back, and most of their great players are young. Nicky Manwari, Reek Wallen, if they're able to, bring him back. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Heck, Sam Darnold, feels like Sam Darnold's been in the league forever. He's 28, 29 years old? He's not even 30 yet. Heck, their coach is young, 38 years old. It's like a lot of their best players, their offensive line, Charles Cross, Gray Zabel. These guys are all young players, all on the rookie deals, all getting better. So Seattle, listen, they're going to have to go through the gauntlet of the NFC West, but again, they had to go through that this year, and they won 14 games. The Cardinals are always going to be the Cardinals. Maybe we see LaFleur kind of turn that thing around and shocking everybody. I don't know. I doubt it. Arizona's not very well run. Rams will be right back in this position. They got to rebuild their defense. San Francisco, their coin flip. It depends. It all comes down to injuries with that team, but even with injuries, they still won 12 games. You ask a lot of these different questions about these squads, but I think with Seattle, it is the way they play translates to any weather condition. It's somewhere. My friend Ryan Flowers, shout out to Ryan of NFL Matchups, good friend of mine for a long time. He used to have a saying about, I think it was actually about the Seahawks like a few years ago, ironically. He said, they're like green eggs and ham. They can play them here, there, anywhere. They can play them in Seattle, Washington, and Santa Clara, California. They can play on the moon, play on Mars, maybe even Jupiter. Their style play translates. It's not dome reliant. It's not bad weather reliant. We know Seattle's not known for its sunny skies per se. Translates anywhere. And so when you're in beautiful conditions yesterday at Levi Stadium, 2 weeks to prepare against a roster that you're significantly better than, again, like this is why we have the graphic from last week. My top 10 players going into the Super Bowl, 7 of them are Seahawks. And I'll be honest, I feel like it was a little generous to put Diggs on there. Again, from 1 to 10, this was coming into the game, but I had JSN, Drake Maye, Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, Darnold, Rashid Shaheed, Leonard Williams, Diggs, Eamon Worry, and DeMarcus Lawrence as my 10 best players. You're not even taking into consideration Reek Woolen, the guy who literally won MVP last night, Kenneth Walker, Derek Hall, who, by the way, has a really inspiring story. Speaking of inspiring stories, Kenneth Walker, this is a guy who thought his football career was over because of a medical condition, and he talked about that with the media after the game.
Yeah, definitely. When a doctor told me I couldn't play no more, I just thought, football was over. That's what I was doing all my life. So it was a shocking moment, but, my dad worked with me throughout that whole process, and he was in the hospital with me as well, and my mom. So just going through that, it just made me grateful for each and every day to be able to go out there and strap up and play this game and just, still be alive for real.
A lot of easy guys to root for in that Seahawks team. Obviously Darnold, but Kenneth Walker, McDonald. There's a really dope moment. Maria Taylor, shout out to her, by the way, became the first ever black woman to present the Lombardi Trophy after the game. But the fact that her and Mike McDonald went to the exact same high school and there was like a really cool embrace at the end of the game, it's like that was dope. It goes to show you, man, come from anywhere. You can come from anywhere and be successful as long as you're committed, as long as you're driven, as long as you surround yourself with the right people, the right support system. You can go anywhere. And I think that was ultimately the message of that game yesterday. From Seattle's perspective, what Bad Bunny did at the half, put the right support system around you, stay committed, stay driven, stay hungry. Like I said about Sam Darnold earlier, change the approach, tweak with the approach, don't change the goal. We hear about halftime adjustments all the time in the NFL. The Super Bowl is the ultimate game for halftime adjustments because halftime's a half hour long. Well, sometimes you got to make adjustments in games. That doesn't change the fact we're still trying to win the game. We're just changing the approach about how we win the game. Sam Darnold's done that. A lot of these Seahawks players have done it. Kudos to the Seattle Seahawks, your Super Bowl 60 champions. And I think it's fitting to say that yesterday in Santa Clara, California, at Levi Stadium, they bit a lot of kneecaps off the New England Patriots.
Kneecap.
I played that soundbite a while, so I figured it was apt for last night. With that, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, on Twitch, and on X. Anywhere you get your podcast, of course, we greatly, greatly appreciate it. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know what you think about today's show. We'll be uploading plenty of social media clips. You can see where all my social media platforms are. So we got YouTube, we got TikTok, Instagram, X, anywhere you get your, certainly your podcast, but obviously anywhere you can check out social media clips. We're posting those on all of the above platforms right there. So, hope everybody has a great week. Here's to an amazing 2025 NFL season. A final congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks on winning their second Super Bowl title in franchise history and coming out victorious. Sam Darnold, Mike McDonald, Kenneth Walker, Derek Hall on that Seahawks defensive line, Nick Eamon-Worry, who I loved out of the draft last year, John Schneider, the Allen family, everybody involved. Clint Kubiak, best of luck to him with the Vegas Raiders. Just hopefully they won't be better than the Steelers. Congrats to Seattle Seahawks, your Super Bowl 60 champions. As for that, hope everybody has a great week. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. I really didn't get the crypto commercial, I'll be honest with you. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.